way is putting more effort and less play. Because now, more than ever, we must show discipline, tolerance, and production to build a strong and better nation. I say that is the main foundation. So come let us work hand in hand, because this is our land. Come my brother, come my sister, and let us build a nation together. This also goes for every Trinbagonian who want to live in a foreign land.
Yes, indeed, of course, our apology for the late start, but it was due to circumstances beyond our control. I had to show Joshua some technique with respect to vulgar fractions, and so, of course, I thought I would spend the time, and of course, that created a lapse in time. And so, of course, we are late tonight. But I think it's for a good cause. Don't you think so? But that being as it may, of course, a pleasant good night to all and sundry, East, West, North, South, Central, our friends in Tobago, and wherever you are streaming on the World Wide Web, a pleasant good day to you. Yes, a merchant is saying, of course, talking very patriotic. Let's take it a little more.
Together.
Well, yes, let's give Joshua, of course, his usual 2 or 3 minutes. He has half-day school tomorrow, but he will be attending school because I insist. It's not a question of you don't have any work to do. You must find work to do. And if there's half-day, half-day is half-day, yes. Get to school and return. Of course, there are some economic consideration in some instances, and I would give way to that because the cost of sending a child to a particular school may be so prohibitive, may be so difficult that one could understand why half day is unproductive. But in Joshua's case, of course, it is productive because he is not too far, his school is not too far from here. All right? So that being as it may, let me say quickly, of course, pleasant good night to you, Joshua. I told you if any front face, any face that would, of course, discourage and not motivate on the live, and then of course please do us a favor, because we want positive and motivational, not just features but words of encouragement. That being as it may, of course, a pleasant good night to you, son. Make your introductions.
Good night, everybody.
Anything that happened today that you would like to tell us? I know that you're not reading tonight because we have a very limited time, but certainly there may be some incident you were telling me about in school where you provided a compliment to your teacher. And what happened? Yeah, what happened?
I just get 2 lines.
Let me hear that again. Let me hear it.
2 lines.
What caused that 2 lines?
I just tell Miss hello.
You did what?
I just tell Miss hello. Like,
you told Miss hello.
Like Miss wasn't have that smooth or what? I don't know.
You said hello, but you didn't say good morning. Is that what you said?
I say good morning.
Oh, you said good morning. I just want to make sure that it's not the word hello, because she may be offended by the word hello. But if you said good morning, miss, nicely, I find it difficult for such a compliment to cause 2 lines. But it's 2 lines, but I suspect that he writes slow. So Miss uses every opportunity to give him an opportunity to practice to write and to write quickly, I suppose. She must have told him, I'm sure, that get made before school starts or before the class starts. Did she go on to say that? No? Well, she probably have her own reason clearly, but I mean that doesn't that compliment doesn't attract, of course, a punishment. But we have to find out what is the thinking of the teacher. I'm talking to those parents out there because you may figure that is unfair, but you don't know the thinking of the teacher. But you have to assume that she is in this situation, she would know what she is doing, he or she, and that therefore we should give them the credit or should I say the leeway to, of course, discipline your child in that environment. Yeah. Any other thing that transpired in school today?
No.
I saw that you got a index, the difference between an index and a table of contents. If you could just explain to those who are depending on you to guide them and to, of course, learn from you as well. What is the difference between a table of contents? You have a book, let's say a science book, and there's a table of contents, and there's also, of course, the index part. The contents, of course, is at the front of the book because it tells you what are the chapters or what are the topics to be expressed inside of the book and the page where it starts. But certainly the index is something else. I will let Joshua explain that. Yeah. What's the difference? What is an index in what you learned today? I saw you doing some homework on that subject.
Like I wasn't there because like it happened.
You was not at school when? For that?
Yesterday.
Yes, for that lesson, yeah.
Yeah, like they do it today.
Right, you did it today, but what you learned about an index?
The index is in the back of the book and the context and in front of the book.
Right, and what does the index tell you?
The index tell you what on the pages what the subject more about.
Very good, very good, very good, very good. Yes, it gives you more details about a particular subject that you would find in the contents in the front of the book. That's all. So, for example, today, give us an example. They were talking about, I saw in the exercise that you were doing, they were talking about, math. First and foremost is about math. But they were talking about fractions, not so? In one instance, they're talking about fractions. Wise, of course, in the contents, in the front of the book, they will say maths and they may break it down into fractions as far as a chapter is concerned. But in the index, you will have, of course, different types of fractions. Not so? A little more detail about the specific type of and the explanation of the particular type of fraction. So it may be fractions, yes, but you have, of course, what kind of fractions you have?
Forward fraction, decimal fraction, percentage fraction.
Yes, so you have those types of fractions, and the index will give you a little more detail and where you can find each one of them. The contents doesn't do all that detail or doesn't give all that detail. All right? So we understand that. Any other thing? Because before we get into the big people thing, of course, the number to call 337-6940, 337-6940. Let me say, just now we'll be putting up our Christmas background, but not yet. We are just informing you. And of course, we are on our Christmas hamper and toy drive as well. We will start that on the weekend. So look forward to that. We want to start early because we recognize that early birds get the fattest worm. Even though in these hard times, a fat worm is very difficult to find. All right. So let's go and boast a bit. Don't forget, of course, we have the classroom setting. Don't forget that. We have the classroom setting, which we will start next week as well. We want to start the adult classes. I have been communicating with the Ministry of Education with respect to the school leaving examination. And then, of course, I have to get the syllabus or the syllabi, more than one, for several CXC as well as the curriculum for the the C exam. CXC, C exam. You'll get a little more. Don't be confused. You'll get a little more. But I thought I should show off again that we have a virtual classroom. I wonder if I could see the physical blackboard. No, I don't think we could do that tonight. But just to inform you that that is the commitment and dedication that we have, and we will be going along that line. And what is it all about? To edify and to educate, and to tell the world that people and citizens in communities that are considered to be disadvantaged, that the police will describe as what? As crime-ridden, that once they are committed people delivering developmental and capacity building programs, every single citizen, every single resident can do and make their contribution positively to national development, and therefore we can solve the question of crime. I'm talking about blue-collar crime here in the main, and therefore murders, larceny, kidnapping, home invasion, and so on will now be affected with a downward spiral as opposed to an upsurge, as we are seeing now in the society. Let's go straight to this first call just now, and then we'll get a first call, and then we will ask Joshua to make his departure. Let's hear if the person wants to talk to Joshua or otherwise. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Yes, Mr. Lennox, good night to you.
Yes.
And special good night, Mr. Joshua Smith. Joshua, I listened to you there, boy, and you make me smile, man. Yeah. I like the way you're jumping it. You're looking like if you're onto something, right? Because your father speak to you there and you answer so diligently and approximately the right thing, right? And he had was a smile when he speak like that. And it gave me great pleasure, Joshua, in listening to what you say. I had to try some index on Peru Becky's boy. Because I see I had a pattern. Yes. Joshua, thank you for that, boy. You make me feel proud, boy. And your father will say, go to the head of the class.
Yes, I normally would say that. Yes, true, of course, a different audience. Yeah. That's it? It sounds as though he had something.
No, you know.
Go ahead.
I got another thing then.
Okay.
But you come back on.
Okay.
Yeah. When I listen to the freedom of information request, right? I say this man supposed to have Jesus for that way. Because I don't know how Kamala could know that. What the FBI or the DA do, or the CIA then.
Yes.
If to that way.
Just so, let me just excuse Joshua in the meantime. Go ahead, Joshua. Go ahead, Joshua. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Yes. All right. Go ahead, caller.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Okay, Joshua. Have a good night rest. Keep that brain sparkling, brother. Okay, Joshua. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Smith.
Yes.
I keep wondering what they wouldn't blame this woman for, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, I think
What
it
is
was.
the problem?
The chairman of the PNM? I think it was Gonzalez.
No, some lawyer and other guy.
Oh, another guy. Okay, but I think I heard that something like that from Gonzalez, who is asking for details
Gonzalez,
about. Yeah.
But,
Okay.
but this fella gave us 30 days to reply.
Oh, I see.
right?
What's-
With a freedom of information.
Threat. All right. They threaten freedom of information. They will use the
Yeah.
freedom of information
Yeah.
law in order to, of course, extract an answer. All right. Good. Go ahead. Mhm.
Yeah, but what's the answer he looking for? Because I already know the answer. Kamala don't know. So what answer you want she to give you? Like she had to beat it from Donald Hill head, and Trump head had to beat it from to come to see. I don't understand.
Yeah. Some people are ridiculous and some people are unreasonable. I suppose that could be one of those scenarios. And being ridiculous. And you know, there's some people who will use that just to get recognition, you know.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, just to
Yes,
say, well,
yeah.
you know, I approached in this way the prime minister of the country, and therefore my name is now being associated with
Correct.
yeah,
Correct.
and
Correct.
I'm now recognized nationally as a consequence.
Yes.
I understand those exercises in futility, but go ahead. Yeah.
You know what I just say? Good people will suffer, you know. I know that. But what about the godless one, boy? What will really happen to them? You know? That everything is like a spite. It's like so much I hate. The country running under fumes, boy. Right? And it's only calling out name on this one, calling out name on that one. Oh gosh, what really wrong with these PNM people? This is not Kamala Bistessa fault or the UNC fault that all your outer officers, boy. This is all your own fault that makes Trinidadians vote all you out because all you never doing what the people want all you to do. You understand? To know all you letting down Kamala, like if she is the one put herself there. It's not Kamala's fault. So why you blaming she now? When you was in power, you never want to adhere to the people request. I just go back and listen to Rowley and sign some kind of question from reporters and gain on with them, you know.
Oh yeah. In fact, he told one that maybe it was a premonition, maybe it was by some kind of devilish intervention when he told someone, but listen, I sue somebody and I come in from court. It was around carnival time, and you take a
Yes, I
picture
remember
of me
that.
coming like if I come in from behind bars, and he have a problem. He had a serious
Yes,
problem with
boy.
that as prime minister.
Yes.
And tell the
And
man,
keep in mind for that.
yeah, and
Yeah,
he's so incensed, he's so vexed. He said, listen,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can't ask me nothing. No, I'm not answering nothing you ask me. But I said, but how ridiculous one prime minister could be, boy, in terms
Boy.
of arrogance and taking onto himself a level of narcissism and spite and what I consider to be not even recrimination, but certainly acidic language against a journalist
Yeah.
because you didn't like the picture that they put with you coming out of court. I mean, it's just asinine, my friend. But go ahead.
And it's the yes thing, you know.
Yeah.
Yes thing. When the man think he forget it.
No, and he glad to be prime minister to, of course,
You understand?
expatiate. Yeah.
Well, you know, just recently they asked him constantly when he signed the agreement with the American, right?
Yeah.
To put boots on the ground in Trinidad now.
Yes.
And they asked him concerning that. He wasn't answering that neither. You know? He said that was what all you want to say, not that I say, you know. And he's going on. They say, well, at least tell me, no, man, what you do when you sign. If that man ain't saying that at all. This man is to know, Akas and them have it easy now. Them kind of bullying Kamala now because she's so soft and kind-hearted,
it's a different
it's
kettle
a
of fish.
different.
Yeah, more
Yeah,
accommodating. Yes, more accommodating, and
yeah,
therefore they see that as weakness, and they are going to
yes,
pounce. But of course, she has learned her lesson clearly the hard way, and she knows
yeah,
how to respond to them, and she has been doing so very credibly. One must
yeah,
say, yes, yes.
yeah. I want to say one thing before I go.
Go ahead, my friend.
Now, I was listening to Alexander, Roger Alexander,
Uh huh.
right? And some people just feel that Roger has sense, right? But Roger Alexander is one of the smartest minister right now in this UNC government. They doesn't understand Roger. You have to be wise to understand Roger Alexander. He does answer you with an illustration. When he answer you, he just show you a form why it has to be so. And many people don't pick up that. And they say Roger.
So when he blow wind in a bag,
Yes,
for example.
yes, they understand that.
Oh, I hear you, I hear you, I hear you. But I think he did himself credit and well when, of course, he retorted to Gonzalez himself, who, of course,
Yes.
saw him as a total dunderhead, as one that does not have command of the English language, and therefore
Yeah.
was very obscene in terms of how he described him. But when he got his turn at the wheel, so to speak,
You understand?
he then told him, listen, he or she without sin cast the first stone, or put another way,
Right.
if you are in a
Right.
new situation, a learning situation, there are times when you are going to make mistakes. And then he referred,
Yes.
of course, to the school children in the audience. I think that they were in the
Yes,
in
yes,
the
yes,
gallery,
yes,
yes, in the
yes,
parlor. And
very good.
he said, children,
Yes.
when you stumble, you get up. And let me
Yes.
say it as well. Let me echo that. When you stumble, you get up. It's not everything you'll get right. The important thing is
Correct.
that you correct your wrong and you move on to the
Correct.
next opportunity, or the next situation where you will have to be in a similar situation of correcting your wrong. I think that was marvelous.
Well, you see, from that, they shall learn something that Roger Alexander is not a foolish man. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Why I'm saying that tonight, I hear people talking about him in a certain way that he under the cloud, but they doesn't really understand him. He's the only minister will answer you a question and show you a form why he answer you a question. You hear the question they ask him about the two Trinidadian guy who get killed, right?
Yeah.
And he turned to them. He said, so why all the journalists didn't ask the question when they say that the boy making some kind of run? All should have find out from him what is the run the boy making. Yeah, I know he does play cricket and running in cricket, but all they are asking them that to go deeper into it, right? And then even tell them that it has souls on a plane, right? And you have to know the name after. So if you on a boat and nobody ain't know your name on the boat, how you could say, well, this one or that one get killed on the boat? You see, he's always show them something. So that's what I'm saying tonight. Roger is a very intelligent person. And if you can't really understand him, you will think he's foolish. This is what I have to say tonight, brothers. Tomorrow, please go now. We will talk.
Yes,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, of course, for opening the bowling, so to speak, to use another cricketing term. Because you
Yeah.
use runs, so I could say bowling. All right.
Yeah.
All right, my friend. Thank you for opening the bowling.
All right, well.
Yes. Yes, indeed, of course. Very, very, very informative, clearly, very committed gentleman. I had cause, I want to say, to meet with him in Sangre Grande. He's a Sangre Grandian as well. So I suppose somebody like that will be well known to Andy, because he has buried his navel string, so to speak, whether he's born again or otherwise, in Sangre Grande. And of course, Wayne Sturge, of course, is the man at the moment, who, of course, controls that particular regional corporation that, of course, manages the affairs at the local government level in Sangre Grande is also dominated by the UNC. All right, of course, in circumstances, I think the history of which will show and demonstrate the quintessential way of determination, grit, and commitment. And on the other hand, persons who are arrogant, who are contemptuous, who take things for granted because they believe they can abuse, they can tell people that if you put a tie on a PNM tie on a crapo, people in Laventil will vote for them. Well, the people in Grandy, after a defeat in local government, well, the subsequent local government results were in favor of the UNC because Rowley and they took the people up there for granted, and they came out, of course, to the bottom, so to speak. And I'm using bottom here in relation to what Rowley would have said about top in Tobago. Because when the PNM was on the ascendancy, because they would have used the race card in Tobago, the what? The Calcutta ship. The Calcutta ship, yeah. And they won. And he castigated Kamala. In fact, I was in Tobago when Kamala Prasad Bissessa coming to Tobago in that particular THA elections. And before she came, she did, of course, cause food cards and other goodies to be distributed in Tobago. Rowley was not only incensed about that, saying that it is immoral, unethical, and to use state resources in that way, but he also, as a consequence of Kamala Prasad Bissessa touching down at the airport in Tobago, then it was called Kong Point. Now, of course, I think it's now called the after A&R Robinson. I think around that time it might have been as well. So don't hold me down for if my chronology, historical chronology, is not reflective of the period. But what I want to say is this, that she had to return immediately to the plane and get out of Tobago because the PNM was on the ascendancy. The PNM won that election handsomely. I think the opposition in Tobago at that time only got 2 seats of the, how much it was? 12, I believe it was. Yeah, 12 seats at the time. Yeah. They won. And so Rowley said that, and remember, Ashford Jack was the person who attaches his political wagon to the UNC at the time. And just as so, of course, the present administration in Tobago, not in the same way of Ashford Jack, not overtly, not with a declaration, not like me, where I said that, listen, we are part of the coalition of interests. My party, Love, as indeed was OWTU, as indeed was PSA, as indeed was PEP, as indeed was COP. They were much more what I consider to be cautious, much more subdued in their association. But what we see is a reflection of their true commitment in the parliament, because on every subject that the government would have had cause to vote upon, the 2 representatives, even though the party that they represent has not declared that they are part of the coalition of interests, but what we saw that they were voting consistently with the government. Consistently. So therefore that's the best example we can glean as to the direction, the preference of the 2 Tobago representatives, and therefore the party that they would have, of course, on whose ticket they would have gotten those seats. But the point I am making is that Rowley was there in his glee. And top, as I said, was the party that associated itself blatantly, conspicuously, without doubt at the time, with the UNC. And they used, as I said, the Calcutta ship in that period. Of course, Rowley, what I can say, deceptively and contemptuously, when, of course, the candidate at the time, he has died now, he has passed on, was talking about the Calcutta ship coming. And they're coming down. And if you allow it to come, what will happen and so on. But Rowley said that he wasn't associated with that, and he condemned it in public. But clearly, his actions does not demonstrate that. When he said to and about top, that it was top, now top is the bottom. So you understand why I could say without any kind of contradiction or any kind of restraint, the whole question of bottom. That was Rowley's response in that particular elections and the results of it. But of course, today is a different story. The people in Tobago came full circle, recognized that it was mamagai, it was, of course, innuendos, it was deception, it was full-fledged and unadulterated political gamesmanship with Rowley, both in Tobago and in Trinidad, and in both territories that make up this unitary state called Trinidad and Tobago, the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. The people show them. And Rowley could pretend that he has escaped. He has not escaped. He left that legacy. What he did, selfishly and self-servingly, he passed on the baton to, of course, a total indolent, that might be an understatement in terms of laziness, but certainly a total buffoon, a total moron, a total individual who clearly is undeserving of even being in the cabinet of any government in Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, I'm talking about Stuart Young. But he, Rowley, felt that he had the audacity, the reckless conduct, as he did right through his reign as Prime Minister. And after, of course, engaging in the highest amount of not just profligacy, but also avarice, greed, and the taking and the extracting and the manipulation of the people's money. People's money in their own interest. And don't tell me I know what I'm talking about, because you will have to explain to me why it is that over 500 recusals in a situation where the government itself orchestrated the watering down or the evisceration of the procurement legislation under Rowley. So I can say that without fear of contradiction. And I trust that you will do your own research and therefore come up with the inescapable conclusion as I have. You don't need to accept what I say tonight, but do your own research and you would see. Or you can call me right now or privately, 337-6940. And I will, of course, give you the information personally, because we have it all on record in various forms, whether digital, whether by way of a typical newspaper, physical. We have it. And of course, the actual statements by these individuals that either were associated with the PNM or part of the of the management of the PNM, and of course, much more specifically, part of the government, the cabinet of Rowley, and subsequently Short Young, which of course was ephemeral. But the entire thing is that he tried to commandeer both the PNM and the country for his nefarious, avarice, incompetent, impotent, and of course malicious and vindictive agenda. So it's very clear. But the line is open, 337-6940. You can continue, of course, to make your calls. I'm studying where my phone is, boy. I wonder if you're still in the car. Sometimes I'm so hurried to get here that I realize it's probably in the same place that it was last night. I'm not seeing it. So I know that some people are calling on the phone itself, and therefore that sometimes is disconnected from the system here. The first caller did get the advantage of using the system, but sometimes it doesn't work. I don't know why. All right, but of course it must be WhatsApp, and you must have an internet connection to get, of course, on the system here. 337-6940, 337-6940. All right. My apology for those who are trying, I'm sure, but have not yet been able to get through because the handset is not with me at this point in time. All right, so let's get down to some of the other issues that was raised. Let me just share with you, because I wasn't familiar, but I was able to glean from the first caller what he was referring to, and I think it is important that we share that. Let me get to the information itself. To share with you what I've seen. Yes, so there it is on the screen. I got the newspaper clipping. Let me just read from it so you will get an appreciation as to what he was talking about as far as the issue of the government getting 30 days to disclose information on U.S. military strikes in the Caribbean. Let me just read for you quickly. The government has been given. All right, okay. So I have it now. Let me see if it is functioning, if it is working. Yes, it's on. So those of you who were calling, I have the handset with me, so you can do so now. Let me try to get some charge on it one time. Let me get some charge on it one time. Yes. All right. So let me get back to that article. And that is, of course, on screen and behind me. Yes, of course, it says the government has been given 30 days to disclose what it knows about the United States military strikes in the Caribbean, including whether Trinidad and Tobago nationals were killed in one of the operations following the issuance of a Freedom of Information Act request. Attorney Karen Ramkalawan, yeah, acting on behalf of social activist and blogger Vishal Prasad, yesterday wrote to Prime Minister Kamala Prasad Bissessa, Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs Sean Sobers, and Commissioner of Police Alistair Guevara, requesting official documents and records related to the strikes. Prasad, who operates the Millennials, yes, for Change, Millennials for Change, yeah, a platform, has launched what he calls the military strike in the Caribbean 2025 Transparency Project. All right, so he is on some kind of mission, and therefore that has reached the level of those officials of government that I have announced earlier in the article. Of course, the FOIA, which is of course the Freedom of Information Act, request seeks disclosure of any legal advice received by the government on the issue. Minutes of meetings held between the Prime Minister and the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Reports supplied to Trinidad and Tobago by U.S. authorities, and the names of all persons killed. The application also asks whether CIA or DEA operatives are currently active in Trinidad and Tobago, and if so, under what authority. The move comes amid a growing public concern following reports that the two Trinidad and Tobago nationals, Chad Joseph and Rishi Samaru, may have died at sea during one of the U.S. operations. Yes, indeed. Let's go straight to the line and hear what you have to say. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Good night, Lennox. You hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, my friend. Loud and clear.
Loud and clear. Yeah, man.
Well, you see, freedom of information request is being made by an activist. Yeah. Seeking information. Go ahead.
I saw part of Kamala when she was in the Tobago.
Yes. Last night I played the entire address to the THA.
No, he showed up, and I saw was very, very good, man.
Thank you.
Very impressive.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Better than that spoil, You can't get a better prime minister than that.
Oh yes. I mean, it is now unanimous.
I'm telling you.
It's not just a consensus, it's unanimous. Yeah.
They didn't know what to miss out in the last 10 years. If she was there in the last 10 years, where that country would have been?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to use your imagination and to understand that Trinidad and Tobago will be a better place than it is now. Yeah.
Yes, still people complaining. Yes, still people complaining.
Yeah.
Well, people start fighting for it because they like the corruption.
Yeah.
It's all about what they can do, what they cannot do. But Kamala don't stand for this country.
That's right.
She's straightforward and doing business. No corruption. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Lennox, remember the lady was talking about Kamala?
Yeah.
Well, she got a visit. She got a visit from an unmarked police car. Well, I want to call police today.
Okay. Because
and she went by the house.
I understand that there is information that she is now being contrite. She is expressing her sorrow and that will not repeat an act that ought not to have been exercised at all.
She did not partially apologize, but she come up and say that what she said. But she knows she will get herself into trouble.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that is a blatant threat to the government. If that happens here, they're going after you right away. You know, wait. Yeah, they learned the lesson. That was learning.
But I suspect that because she is a PNM sycophant, she would have felt that she was doing Penelope Beckles and the 12 plus 1 a favor. Yeah, I suspect that. It is there. You see, so long we have learnt one thing over the last 9 years of the PNM, that once the PNM is the beneficiary of a particular act or conduct, we know it is they who instituted it. And I'm going to show you, before you leave here, why I am so certain, because of something that transpired only recently. But go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Lennox.
Yeah.
You see, they in the last 9 years or 9.5 years,
Uh-huh.
they they was Raleigh was doing this kind of thing, and I think it's okay. You know, and they think they can do the same thing, but it's not the same thing. You know, they have no
Yes.
respect for the mouth, and they consider it as freedom of speech, but there are certain part it is not freedom of speech. When it comes into threat and making different things, that's a different story.
Yeah.
That's a blatant threat.
Lives and national security.
That's a national security threat. They could hold the backside and lock your ass up.
And you're so stupid, you do it when a state of emergency exists.
And that worse again.
Yeah, because, I mean, how more stupid can you be? But as I said, it's because they believe that they are obligated to anamorphous, a dying, almost Jurassic or extinct group of people in an organization called the PNM. That's all about. But go ahead, as I said, I will explain it later.
Yeah, all right, Lennox. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, man, what I call about it, I'm very, very impressed about how the country is going, man. How Kamala is taking it to. And Trinidad and Tobago, all I hang on there, things will be nice, you know. But just have to keep patient. You know, things will work out, you know. And I seen it already. I seen it already go work out, man. You know, let they get together and do the thing, you know. And who knows, I go come back this late when I go buy a little place
Yes.
down there.
No problem, my friend.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right, Lincoln, Mr.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much. Yes. We have another caller. That person is on the line. This person is on the. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Good night, Lennox.
Good night, my friend.
Martin. This is
Yes, Diego Martin.
I think-
Yes.
I think a little sabbatical. Back.
Yeah, so you took a sabbatical, conspicuously so, because your presence, your absence was extremely miss and conspicuous. But go ahead.
All right, listen to this. I was listening to one I called earlier today.
If you could just speak a little louder, because my phone is the medium through which we are getting you onto the world stage, so to speak. Go ahead.
Okay, I will talk closer to my phone. Are you hearing me better
Yeah.
now?
Yes. Better now. Yes.
Oh, right. Yeah, as I was saying, I was listening to one of your earlier caller, and you mentioned the press conference that they were basically the fourth estate interrogated Suba's Minister of Foreign Affairs on if he had any information, coordinates, and things like that.
Yeah.
I want to ask the fourth estate, did they interrogate Sleepy Heights when the Coast Guard opened fire on a Venezuelan migrant boat and they killed a little boy, a little child, while they were coming to Trinidad? We still haven't heard what has happened to that investigation. The other issue, there was a joint action between the Grenada Authority and the Trinidad Authority. And in Grenada waters, this happened about 5 months ago, 5 or 6 months ago, a submarine sank in Grenada's water. And one of our Coast Guard is still under there. They haven't lifted the body out of the submarine. It's still submerged. And I wanted to know if our fourth estate asked for the coordinate and basically find out what has happened to that person. But there's another frightening thing to that. They say they got 3 Colombians, and we're not too sure if the Colombians was brought back to Trinidad or they were part of an arrest and it's in Grenada. The other thing is, who was responsible for the death of the Coast Guard? The investigation is going on. We still haven't had anything. We were probably waiting for it to sit together. But the most frightening thing was the deliberately sent underwater. So when the court, they have no evidence. You understand where I'm going with this?
Yes.
This is serious. That happened on eyes of Sleepy Fitzy. No. The other issue is, and we've seen it all over the place today, where TikToker or a YouTuber basically threatening the government and the Prime Minister with all kind of thing. I think
the Freedom of Information, FOIA.
It appears that the police are laissez-faire in all of these things. Remember, jump the wall and deal with them, and then the crosshair, the Prime Minister's out. All of these things, it has a trend. And if the police don't act with alacrity, then we are in a state, probably as the Commissioner, as the Attorney General say, in a state of disorder. We have no order. No. There is another issue I want to bring to the forefront, and I have been prosecuting this on all the radio areas. The TTNRA president. You remember when people was hesitant to take vaccine and they were forced to want to pass law to mandate people and people lose their job.
Yeah.
He came out and said no priority, this is my word, should not be given to non-vaccinated people if spaces in the ICU is limited. You remember he said that?
Yeah.
And then he come back and he apologized for saying that.
Okay.
If we had serious people in Trinidad and Tobago, he should have lost his job. And I don't know why they kept him on as a health professional. The Hippocratic oath of, I think, medical practitioners is patient first. Everything else could wait, money, everything. But patient care, that is the Hippocratic oath. And he should understand that too. Let's fast forward. 3 days ago, he made some statement that people should not go to Mount Hope because there's no medical practitioners. That is when a number of nurses stay home. I think about 15 of them in Mount Hope. And I have been asked that an investigation has to take place as to why these nurses stayed home. Was it a day of policing, or should we call it a day of nursing? Why was it one of those things, some sort of work rule? He has to answer for that, because right after that he made the pronouncement. Is that not a strike or a work rule? I find it strange that nurses, or did these nurses react to the public utterances of the PNM MPs when they say we're in a state of war and all kind of thing? They got a little bit of anxious and they went home. So that must be fleshed out. And I believe in a state of emergency, that gentleman must be disciplined. Public mischief, because he get away 4 years ago during COVID when he said, okay, if you have no vaccine, you can't, you're not priority for the ICU.
Yes.
And you know what he did for the nurses? He and Terence the Terrible gave the nurses a pan of biscuit for all the effort they made, you know. You remember that?
Yes. Yeah, you're talking about you're talking about the ass thing. Yes, go ahead.
So I'm hoping
Former Minister of Health, under the PNM people,
Right.
the ass to sing. Yes, go ahead.
Right. This time I'm hoping that he negotiates for 2 Pana biscuits. Not 1, 2. Because, no, I want him, I am asking that he should not be, because it's taxpayers' money paying for him, and he was discriminating against non-vaccinated people, patients.
Yes.
And citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. To me, that was a heinous sort of suggestion.
Yes.
And they haven't removed him. Go on.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, my friend. Well, yes, of course, quite a number of issues that was raised here. As usual, of course, Mr. De Martin, the conspiracy theory expert, but at the same time, of course, nestled always in some factual, inescapable issues that clearly requires further, what I consider to be intellectual and cognitive application to arrive at, let's say, a discerning conclusion. You have to be discerning to draw a conclusion. But that is out there. I notice, of course, he would always refer to people by some kind of alphabetic term, or indeed, of course, he may well use an acronym. You know, he may say KC or BC, as the case may be. But there is something that that he said, and of course the other callers, and I'm sure that those who are still to call will be concerned about. And that is, in the present situation and the call for and the threat of freedom of information to extract, to disclose, one has to take into account whether or not, in any circumstance, having regard to what the government would have pronounced and said, because there seems to be some kind of suggestion that Trinidad and Tobago was privy to what, or to more than what is being told or have been said by Donald Trump himself. It is about narcotics. It is about drug cartels. It is about the fact that the recognition that the Venezuelan president, Maduro, not only has a 50 million bounty on his head as a fugitive from American justice for the exporting into the United States of drugs, but is linked to the Sun cartel. All of that is part and parcel of the variables and the multiple issues that we must address. And I want to use a hypothetical situation to see whether or not we can rationalize and come to a common conclusion. Assuming that Trinidad and Tobago was not that close to Venezuela, assuming that Trinidad and Tobago was not a country at all on the map of the world, and the United States decided to take action, all other things being equal, I wonder what these people would have been saying. Particularly if they existed in another jurisdiction, maybe Grenada, St. Vincent's case maybe, but Trinidad and Tobago was never on the map. What they would say? How they would draw a conclusion that Trinidad and Tobago is part of, and as if they are deploying assets, because the reality is that Trinidad and Tobago has not been and cannot reach the standard and level of asset deployment as that of the United States. And more significantly, they are careful enough to act in international waters over which Venezuela or no country in the Caribbean, outside the Caribbean, in the world has any kind of jurisdiction. Understand that. You see, I am saying all of that because I promised earlier that I am going to show you where, when in the present circumstance, this and others, you can apply the same principle as to who would benefit from the negativities, from the castigation, from the rambunctious and tenacious and consistent antagonism towards the government and the Honorable Prime Minister Kamala Prasad Bisesa on the range of issues, whether it be on social media, traditional media, as the case may be, and ignoring, of course, what she would have said or what the government would have said at their position. There is no way they could influence the conduct of the United States. No way the United States would have employed on Trinidad and Tobago's behalf in such a situation where drugs are concerned. You think if these drugs were not targeting American citizens, Trump would have had any kind of excuse along that line to deploy assets in the Caribbean Sea of Venezuela? He would have to use something else. If the regime there, or if Venezuela, or if, of course, drug cartels was in fact the target. That's the point I am making. Trinidad and Tobago has no locus standi, far less for hegemonious and therefore influence on the United States. To somehow engage in that notion and to project it onto the population of Trinidad and Tobago is nothing different to Penelope Beckles going to the United Nations and pretending that somehow she is equal to Kamala Prasad Bisesa and the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, whose right it is because of her titular position and legier position and de facto position and ex officio position, addresses the United Nations. Penny going up there to give certain elements in the society who would hang on to a dribble and not accept the mischief that is intended to make by Penelope Beckles and the PNM. Nothing different to when, of course, she would make certain statements at the Diwali Naga during, of course, the Festival of Light. Nothing different to when she would have called a press conference asking about and making assertions about the presence of the Gravely, that warship that came and left very, very peacefully. But giving the impression of talking about Penelope Beckles and that some war will begin from Trinidad. Now I want to tell you something. Look at the geography. Why would the United States want to begin a war from Trinidad with one of their warships? But they have submarines. They have the largest carrier in the world heading this way. And look at your geography and see how far Caracas, the capital of Venezuela, is from Trinidad and Tobago. Even though the land space by its most easterly edge is just about 7 miles from Trinidad. You have to be a total dunderhead. You have to be a total military buffoon. And you would have had to be totally an ignoramus as far as geography is concerned to understand that if the United States or anybody at all have to attack Venezuela, it will have to be close to or in line with or in close proximity to Caracas, the capital where all the action takes place. Nothing different to if some hostility with another country that involves Trinidad, they will have to be close to Port of Spain. In the case of Grenada, they'll have to be close to St. George's. In the case of St. Vincent, they'll have to be close to their capital. And so on and so forth. The war in Ukraine, for example, between Ukraine and Russia, the reason why the Russians have not been able to do damage as they would like to Ukraine is because Kiev, their capital, is so far from the theater of conflict. So even though they said that they will tie up that war in weeks, it has turned out to be close to 3 years, or close to 3 years. Russia is still tied up in Ukraine. Why? Because the capital is so far west of the border that they would have with Kiev. I'm talking about Ukraine with Russia. They have the same border, closer to Trinidad and Venezuela. But Kiev itself, the capital of the Ukraine, is so far west that in fact in the early days of the war, they sent a whole column of tanks to say that they're going to Belarus, which of course is a country that is in the sphere of influence of Russia, but closer to Kiev, just about the east or west, somewhere there, but closer. And if they had launched the war from there, certainly the country would have fallen already once you take the capital. So to say that the Gravely comes here and will fire something at Venezuela and start a war, it is asinine. It is impossible. That the Pentagon should not exist if they are asking their military personnel to start a war from Trinidad to incur or to enter Venezuela, from all that forest, swamp, snake, crocodile, and so on. They'll have to march through in order to get there if they're going on foot. Of course, if they are flying, well, it's a different story. But there is no need to look at Trinidad and Tobago simply because they have Puerto Rico and other American geographic assets in the Caribbean at the disposal of the southern military establishment that they have created over the years. The Southern Command. Southern Command always deliberated for, of course, Latin America and the Caribbean. The point I am making is that Caracas is so far from Trinidad that no military expert that requires or worth its salt would begin a war from here. No. It was nice and there was no need to, as far as the Americans are concerned, because of their massive and expansive ability to wage a war in several fronts and several parts of the globe, simply because it's the only country that has the most bases across and have soldiers and military assets stationed, whether it be in Africa, whether it be on the Asian continent or associated with the Asian continent, but strategically located to wage a war at any moment. And if they don't have it, they have the air and sea capacity to reach. You know what I say? I said they have the air and sea capacity to reach wherever they want to wage war. Only country, not China, not Russia, not worse yet, Iran and Cuba and so on. They are insignificant, infinitesimally small, insignificant in that regard. So what they do? They bring their own, of course, asset to bear where they want it. And so the largest carrier is on its way here. That comes like an island by itself in the sea that they have brought to wage war on the drug cartels. And if they wish, they can wage war, of course, on the Venezuelans as well, as they have done in the Middle East recently. And as they have, of course, bombed out the nuclear facility that was buried deep underground to stop the Iranians from pursuing the development of a nuclear bomb. I'm saying all this to say, how Kamala Prasad Bissessa and Little Trinidad and Tobago come into this? How? It is only valid or understandable when you understand the desperation and the square peg and round hole argument delivered by the present PNM 12+1 in order somehow to destabilize and to send, of course, the population into some kind of skeptic, psychological vortex in order to cause physical action to undermine the present government. That is all. And I told you, of course, that I will tell you where that game came from. That playbook. It came from Maduro. Check it out. And we saw it exhibited a couple of days ago. And I have no doubt in my mind, as you should as well, that there is communication between the nefarious, undermining, deceptive, power-mongering, but incompetent, impotent, greedy PNM operatives communicating with Caracas. I have no doubt in my mind. The same tune that they are singing over there is the same tune that was originated from here by the opposition in Trinidad. What is the playbook of which I am speaking? the playbook exhibited, content of which exhibited recently, was when the false, fake, pretensive, make-believe that the assembly in Venezuela passed a resolution to make our prime minister persona non grata in Venezuela, meaning that she can't enter there. She has no status. And as she rightly said, of course, let me just add quickly, who cares? Who wants to go there anyway? But it's part and parcel of the same thing that the PNM in Trinidad attempted to hoodwink the population with and would continue so to do. And then, of course, give legitimacy on their own, as we saw in Venezuela. And more than that, you saw people on the streets, well televised, international, local, designed for one thing only. And as a consequence of one thing only, the latter, meaning the consequence, is that it is Maduro's political party and their members that have been engaged in that. You ever say it is Maduro and his political party engaged in that orchestration, attempting, of course, across the Gulf of Paria to discredit our prime minister and the government. Just as how Pedro Beckles, Rowley in the background, and others are attempting, of course, to discredit the government in Trinidad. That's not waste time. We know where the source is, and therefore we have to call it and call a spade a spade. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Hey, good night, Mr. Lennox.
Good night to you, my friend. Yes, ma'am.
To everybody else. Mr. Lennox,
yeah.
I sent you some things to look at now. I didn't know if you had a chance to look at it.
No, not yet.
I think,
not yet.
Okay, one of the things I sent you is the protests where, PNM is the worst thing that ever could have ever happened to Trinidad and Tobago, you know. Imagine these people like them protested and saying, and in their PNM jerseys, marching and saying they're going to Venezuela to fight against the Americans. Well, I want to laugh. That could have been the biggest joke of my life.
That's right. Yeah.
According
It's part of the playbook. It's part of the playbook. Only them alone, yeah. A vast minority. And I want to come to that after you finish, make your point, because I want to make people
well,
understand.
I will be long in the concept. You're going on. What makes me laugh about it, make the whole thing so laughable. The reporter, while reporting said hundreds of people, but when I watch, I didn't even see nothing look like 100 people.
Yeah, that is what they will do, try to create some kind of reality from a total fiction.
Yes.
Yeah.
I said that unnecessary hysteria. But anyway, I go still go on, but you go see some of the things I said when they get a chance to look at it.
I will.
Look at it. Okay.
Thank you very much.
God bless my brother.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
And the point I am making is that it is a concoction. It is a manifestation of the very fertile, for evil reasons, of course, imagination and action of this dual evil, Maduro and his cronies on the one hand, and Penelope Beckles, Rowley and Chochong on the other hand, across the and in between, of course, is the Gulf of Paria. Attempting to tell the world that that is a legitimate cause, that is a legitimate action, and not orchestrated action for selfish and self-serving reasons. But let me tell you this. Maduro is deposed tomorrow, just imagine that. If they are deposed tomorrow, he and his cronies, before I disclose the obvious, I will want to convert that to a question. If they were deposed tomorrow, what do you think will happen in Venezuela the next day or the next moment? But just in case you're playing stupid or you don't have that level of imaginary foresight, but let me tell you, hundreds of thousands of persons will be on the streets in Venezuela rejoicing and awaiting the next move as liberty and liberation and emancipation would have come to them. It's not waste time. You know, I say hundreds of thousands, millions of persons would have been on the streets of Maracas and other parts of that country celebrating the demise of Maduro, and let us use our imagination and common sense. Let us do it. We have seen that over and over in history. When Gaddafi was deposed, what happened? When Saddam Hussein was deposed, what happened? People were rejoicing in the streets and in every nook and cranny. Optimistic, of course, but more importantly, revering and celebrating their freedom, their newly found freedom. That is what's going to happen in Venezuela. Don't waste my time now, man, for me to be talking in this way to, of course, express the obvious. The optimism would have, of course, spread, and the joy and the rejoicing would have spread so far that Trinidad and Tobago would have been immediately emptied of Venezuelans. Only those who would have attached themselves in such a complex way may stay. But they will not relinquish their linkage to Venezuela as they have in the present circumstance, at minimum. Let's go to the lines. A pleasant good night and welcome to the corridor, man. You have to use some common sense, man. Go ahead, caller. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night to the callers.
Yes, man.
I've been trying to get on for the longest while.
Oh, boy. Sorry about that. Yes.
Yeah, and I couldn't get on. Calling from San Fernando.
Go ahead, San Fernando.
These people, like, they will never learn. The lesson. People like Mauli and Invis and Penelope Beckerson. You, like in your efforts to a man who you give a house, and you give him money and you tell him, well, okay, you know, see about the house. And when you return, you know, when you return in 5 years or 2 years' time, the house smash up. That is your analogy.
Yes.
Right? But I have a different take or a different spin on this thing. And I'm going back to 1986 when money passed through Trinidad like a piece of swords. And actually to say also that under Chavez, also in Venezuela, under Chavez, now it is good to give or to build houses and stuff for people. All that is good, you know, good things to do. But then in terms of the economic structure, Chavez didn't really set up the people to deal with the economic flow that will happen to them. Right? So he gave them houses and he built a lot of things for them, but then that economic structure was really not set up. So money also passed through Venezuela when the oil boom was passing through that with Chavez at that time, right, like a dose of salt. Right? So I liken this whole thing to saying that, okay, if you have a man who, let's say, and he finds $5 somewhere on the streets or something. And with that $5, he takes the $5 and won by a lotto. And he wins $25 million. What do you think is going to happen to him? Madness will start. Because he was not able to sustain the kind of spending he was spending all that like it is nothing. Right? So actually what will happen is that he started with zero and he will end up with zero. So I like this whole thing to be like that with the PNL, right? Williams just let a whole set of money just pass to Trinidad and apparently, you know, he didn't put that real economic structure in place to develop the country the way it should really go. And Robinson tried after him. Right, but they say everybody say Robinson was a failure in 1992. Come on, happen. So you understand what I'm doing?
Yes. I understand clearly. I am analyzing as you speak. Go ahead.
So when it comes down to Rowley, I mean, it's madness because when it comes down even to Rowley, we are now inbirth in it. And just imagine inbirth was a part of this from since the 1980s, right? And like it's like he never really learned his lesson on how to really structure the things so that Trinidadians themselves could, benefit off of this. So the money goes somewhere else. Where does it go? And it's not trickling down. If it does trickle down to the poor man's hand, it just goes back. Like if it just, I don't know, like something is wrong somewhere that we don't really, the PNM don't really seem to have a grip on the finances of this country. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's just madness.
Yeah.
And they keep repeating the same thing over and over and over and over.
Yeah, and the same way they repeat the same methodology to get back into government, and then of course generate the chaos and then the decadence and shambolic state of affairs, and we then have to pick up the pieces. And I mean, it's a never-ending cycle. But of course, I think the present administration has put an end to that. The PNM will be no more, and therefore, of course, we could see a future for Trinidad and Tobago that is truly developmental once and for all, with equity and of course with perspective that really and truly will be able to build a nation.
But even with the Venezuela issue, we can okay, Trinidad has 1.5 million people approximately, right?
Yes.
With Venezuela is that it's a little more complex. It's more complex, right? Because there's 50 million people in the limit.
Yeah.
Right? But then what I want to believe is that Chavez couldn't sustain it. He couldn't sustain what he was doing.
Nice.
So it caused the whole, and if you see the reason why I'm also saying that it's complex is because you also have the criminal aspect of it to deal with too.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
So if anybody, any sane person blaming or camera person for what has happened to Venezuela, it will be crazy.
I call it asinine. I call it dunderheaded. I call it, totally in a state of intellectual and mental decline, if you would take that position. But that's a narrative, as I was saying, of the PNM. The opposition will try to project that kind of illusion when in fact it is not so, only because they want to get back into office, impossible as it is, and cannot be in the short, medium or long-term distance or period. All right, thanks very much.
Yeah, all right. Okay.
Yes, thanks very much. Yes. Well, I want to say clearly, but before I say that, let me just say one time. that I loathe and I find it unfair to the authors, the people who speak it or write it, and of course those persons who practice it and listen. That I like to use people gravitating in specific terms. I did that during the course of the campaign, and I think it is applicable today. And that is some people. One, if I have to use that term, is some people. I wouldn't say people. It sounds too generic. It sounds as if it's across the board. No, some people. One, or you say those few that the PNM has been able to still influence. But to give the impression that all of the people are recalcitrant, or they're not listening, or they're that obtuse, or they're that insensitive, I think is selling the massive victory of the UNC short. Because clearly the victory itself, 26 seats in Trinidad, in itself speaks volumes. I tried to cut off the phone here, my friend, but you can cut off here. All right, thanks. Yeah. People, of course, we are nearing, but let me just finish up with this. The caller made a very valid point, and that is the populist and the socialist perspective of fellas like Rowley and Chavez and Maduro, of course, being what I consider to be a parasite or opportunist that was able to get something because he's an ordinary bus driver, never thought you would be where he is, and now doesn't want to leave. It's called, of course, as I've always said, a auto coup, but we'll deal with that on another occasion. The point I am making is that it is based on ideology. You see, what Chavez and they did, they had an ideology that literally shot themselves in the foot because they're so loath, they're so anti-United States that they fail to accept that if it is that the United States is responsible for the prosperity of their country, one, the longevity and the development of their natural resource, gas and oil. In fact, PDVSA, the oil company that is owned by the government of Venezuela, had a series of gas stations in the United States, you know. And yet still, your policies and programs based on your ideology of being anti-United States, whilst depending on the United States for your survival and for your economic advancement, you had to be mad. How I would want to help you to kill me, because that is what it is. And it is called, in the context of Trinidad and in the context of Venezuela, ideological positioning. Rowley's ideology is that, listen, the United States is too policeman-like. That cannot be the police for the world. And if Venezuela, and of course he would know about the oil and the largest reserve in the world, etc. And if Venezuela is resisting them, I too must do it from an ideological perspective. But what they have done is create chaos for their own people. Maduro is holding on to a dribble. China will not bail them out indefinitely. Russia cannot, Iran worse, and Cuba not at all. But yet still, ideologically, they will hold on to this dribble, the elasticity of which is not permanent and therefore will eventually bust, eventually sever, eventually be cut. And they will be left in tatters as Venezuela has, and as Trinidad and Tobago has become under the ideological positioning of Rowley and they. In other words, leaders are expected to be pragmatic in their functioning and their decision making in the interests of their people. It has nothing to do with your personal ideology. The pragmatic position of Kamala Prasad Bisesa could only put Trinidad and Tobago in a win-win situation at the end of all of this. She said the right things. She did the right things. And so what could only happen to Trinidad and Tobago is rewards after rewards. If Chavez did not take the ideological position of aligning himself with pariah states and the arch enemies of the United States, you see, it would have been a different story if it was China, Russia, and Iran who invested in their oil and gas industry and can make the necessary, not just investment, but the sustainability of development and prosperity on their own, but they can't. Not even Russia could do it on its own. Not even China could do it on its own. Because the hegemonious influence of the United States is so gigantic, is so gargantuan, that you cannot get away from that magnet. You cannot get away from that sphere of influence. Rowley tried that with us, buffing and weaving, and sending shipload of gas to Venezuela, who in this hemisphere is America's arch enemy in the present circumstance. You think Trinidad could have lasted long in that kind of buff and weaving, and Rowley, of course, believing that talk could save him or save Trinidad and Tobago from his ideological position that he must align himself with Maduro? And what Maduro aligned himself with in the face of the juggernaut position and of course reality of the presence of the United States? You had to be a backside and a half. Sorry, I'm not in Spargos tonight and a Friday night. I could use the language and the words that I want, but because I'm from Laventille, so I have a very prolific vocabulary as far as grassroots expressions and interaction is concerned, but I'm going to use it here. It is ideological. Chavez lost on that. This fella inherited, I believe that he could live on that. I'm talking about Maduro. Rowley tried that, and he has now disappeared. Lost. And all of them, in an attempt, of course, to gain some kind of political traction, the 12+1, attempting to suggest in a very oblique and at the same time amorphous way, not solid in any respect, being broad and what I consider to be tenuous, being, of course, very almost enigmatic, puzzling. You don't know where they stand, trying to, of course, worm their way middly, but still, of course, finding themselves associated with the ideological position in Venezuela today with respect to the presence of the United States in, of course, Caribbean waters. So they come up with this epiphany called Zone of Peace, ignoring totally the human rights violation and the savage and brutal attack on the Venezuelan people by the Maduro regime. And don't tell me you don't understand that, because why it is that so many of them are here in Trinidad and all over the South America. It's because of that. Because of that. There are other, of course, variables that you could fit in, but that is so conspicuous. Why the leaders of the CARICOM are not mentioning that? I ain't reached yet the whole question of democracy and promise to have free and fair election. You lost the election and you don't want to leave because you're controlling, of course, the apparatus of cohesion, meaning force, brutal, accept what I say and nothing, do as I say and nothing. Dictatorship, in other words. That's what is happening there. It's ideological. We only try to impose his ideology on Trinidad and Tobago, not, of course, acting in Trinidad and Tobago's best interest, but Trinidad and Tobago must act in his best interest because he is ideologically polarized, and so, of course, has crippled Trinidad and Tobago. And the caller is right when he talks about, of course, winning a lottery. And I say, of course, the lottery for Rowley is that he met 12 billion US in reserve, and by the time he demitted office, it was just about 4 billion. And yet still they claim that and are asking questions as to where the money gone of the present government that is in office only just over 100 days. Come on. So I say to the majority of the people, be rational, be smart, continue, when I say so, I mean continue so to be. And do not allow, of course, the 12 plus 1, and of course, Maduro and they who have orchestrated in their own party, when in fact there will be a huge celebration when he would have gone. Let's not waste time. And of course, Trinidad and Tobago will be emptied of these Venezuelans that are here seeking, of course, peace and survival. So we have come to the end of tonight's program. People, of course, have a wonderful rest of the night. Don't forget, of course, tomorrow morning, the ground report, Andy, Mike, and myself. And of course, I want to end by saying categorically that we have a Trinbago that we must love.
Now the election back and I'll die away. In short, this is what I have to say. Let us forget spites and grudges and concentrate. Come, let us sit and try to relate. Because now, more than ever, we must show discipline, tolerance, and production to build.
Once again, people, of course, don't forget that tomorrow morning, the ground report, Andy, Mikey, and myself, as we continue, of course, with these and other issues. Tomorrow night, of course, being Thursday night, we will continue, of course, with another topic, one that clearly is topical, and another version of the very issues that are contemporary and relevant today. Have a wonderful one once again, and God bless. Bye-bye.
Remember, the key to success is working hard. For our country we must have regard. Forget all your differences, let we start to build. And onward to progress we surely will. Because now, more than ever, we must show discipline, tolerance, and production to build a strong and better nation. I say that is the main foundation.